Hey, what's going on, everybody? Jonathan Bailor and April Perry, and we are back in action with another Sane show. How you doing today, April?
I'm doing actually really well today. The month has been a little crazy, but today is actually one of the happiest days I've ever had, which is great, right?
That is great. What's been going on prior to today?
Well, it's actually leading into the show we're talking about. It's life happens and I get it. And I don't want this to be a complaining show or anything like that because I recognize that there's a lot of great parts of my life, as everybody has great parts in their lives, but you have things that are hard. And prior to this, last time we talked, it's where I had finally dialed in, taking Sane to the next level. I was feeling better than I'd ever felt before, which is awesome. And I'm still totally dedicated and doing great, but this month has kind of thrown me for a loop. So I'm going to walk through 5 things that happened this month that were super hard and talk about what you and Angela would have done in that situation, because literally that was going on in my head, is that when something would happen and I would think, oh, darn it, how am I going to be able to figure out how to eat all my vegetables, or how can I figure it out? And I thought, well, Jonathan and Angela would figure it out. Like, you guys would just figure it out. So I did pretty well, but I think it could have been a lot better. So I'm super excited to talk about it today. Should we just start with number one?
Let's just start from the top.
Just give you the report. I know we haven't talked for a long time. Okay, so first is just something super normal. I traveled to a multi-day conference. And so basically I was in conference meetings from morning till night. I didn't have a lunch break because I actually signed up for this lunchtime coaching. So I was in these lunchtime meetings where they had vegetarian options, but they didn't have sane options. And I feel like that's one of the trickiest things. Like, you can tell people, oh, gluten-free or, vegetarian or whatever, but you can't really say sane. And so it had a few little vegetables, and a little bit of maybe, I don't know, fruit, some other thing like that, but they didn't have protein or whole food fats or anything like that. So I know packing your own food for a conference is great, but I actually didn't have a car with me. And I'm in this big conference center and I'm thinking, would Jonathan and Angela just take a big cooler and fill it up with vegetables? I mean, I did bring kale in my computer bag and added it to the salad and brought some almonds. I mean, I felt a little silly. I had some protein bars. But if you looked in inside my computer bag, you would have just seen a whole lot of vegetables and random stuff. And I felt a little silly, and I ran out of food partially through the conference. So what would you do in a case like that?
Whenever I travel, I do try to break down the sane foods into their component food groups, and I don't carry around a cooler. So what I'm going to
Okay.
recommend is what I do when I travel. This is not what I would recommend if you're not traveling, but it's what I do when I travel.
Yeah.
So when I travel, I say, I got to get my non-starchy vegetables. I don't have access to refrigeration. So that's when I use powdered vegetables. So things like
Okay.
garden in my glass, that's why we created them. That's what they're perfect for when you don't have access to fresh vegetables. So I don't carry around a green water bottle, but I do,
Okay.
for example, have, I start my morning in the hotel room with 3 servings of garden in my glass. I
Okay.
might take a Ziploc baggie with 3 more servings, have that in the middle of the day. Then I have 3 more servings at the end of the day so that I'm at 9 servings of vegetables no matter what. For
Okay.
my protein, I've got Sane meal bars. And this show isn't like advertisement
The
for our
same store.
Sane,
That's
but
okay.
that's
That's all right.
why we created them. This is what I do. This is what I
Yeah.
recommend, and it's really helpful for people. So I would eat a Sane meal bar, and that's what I have with me for my nutrient dense protein. And then for whole food fats, I would take baggies of raw nuts.
Okay.
And that's how I get through traveling.
Okay, if you have the garden in my glass in a Ziploc baggie, and then do you just take a water bottle with you and pour it in that, or just get a cup of water at the conference, or what would you do?
That's correct. That's what I would recommend, and mixing it with a
Okay.
plastic spoon. If you're very advanced, you can just put it directly in your mouth without inhaling, because then you'll do the cinnamon challenge with garden in my glass and you'll choke horribly. So I don't recommend that. That is what I do because I've been doing it for
Oh
years.
my gosh. So
But yeah,
funny. All right. Okay. So that one's helpful because that was kind of one of the easier ones. Not too bad, but yes, I found that I was struggling a little bit. I have been working to get hotels that have a fridge. I've been going and buying broccoli and buying kind of the foods I enjoy eating a lot, and so that's been working pretty well. But I do get stopped in every airport for my whole cucumbers that I have stuck in my bags. They're always wondering why I'm traveling with whole cucumbers. Okay, I know, kind of random.
well, no, and
Okay.
just for what it's worth,
Okay.
while we're talking about traveling, there are some vegetables that travel better than others.
Yeah.
things, the more hardy the vegetable is. So for instance, cabbage, red cabbage is
Hmm.
super hardy. And when I say hardy, I mean things, if you keep them in your fridge, you can keep red cabbage in your fridge for a while and it still tastes
Yeah.
good. So things like kale, for example, is much hardier than romaine lettuce. It just feels
Mm.
hardier. It's sturdier. So if you're going to travel, hardy vegetables like a kale or a cabbage travel very well.
Okay. And those might get through the airline, detection way better. Okay, second thing, I did have a fall on my rollerblades and totally bruised my tailbone. My puppy was running in the other direction and I just hit really hard. I couldn't walk for about, I don't know, a week. It was really hard for me to walk. But doing eccentric weights was totally out of the question because I was in such pain. So if you have an injury, what do you do with the weights? Like even lifting anything with my arms was hurting my tailbone. Like I couldn't do anything. Now I feel like I'm about ready to get back, but I'm kind of nervous because it still hurts when I sit down, and I'm worried about that.
You focus on getting better. If you have the flu, for example,
Hmm.
people are like, oh, I have the flu. Should I go exercise? No, not at all.
Okay.
Exercising is putting additional stress on your body that will cause your body to then super adapt and become stronger. But if your body's already being stressed, either by an injury or by a sickness, it is not
Yeah.
time to add additional stress to that mix. So remember, we're here. SANE is all about healing. So if you need to heal, like if you've fallen below normal because of an injury or an illness, we've
Yeah.
got to take care of that and get you back up to normal first before we ever even think about going super normal.
Okay. So I don't need to feel bad that I'm not at the gym. I am starting to do some yoga and I'm doing more walking now. So that's good.
You should never feel bad about allowing your body time to heal.
Okay. Thank you. I love that permission. Everybody from Jonathan Bailor. There we go. Okay, number three, I got a concussion, which is like super embarrassing how it happened. I was at a sock hop with my kids and there was this crash. Anyway, it was pretty bad, but I ended up bouncing my head off of a hardwood floor and I thought I was okay, but then after a couple of days, I realized I wasn't. So I was in bed I was probably laying down for about 10 days. And what's hard about a concussion is that they ask you to go on brain rest. So there's like no TV, there's no reading, nothing. You're just laying there focusing on getting better. Now, also there was nausea that went with that. Now, if someone's, pregnant and nauseated or sick and nauseated or going through chemotherapy, I mean, there's lots of reasons why someone could feel nauseated. But what was hard is that vegetables really sounded awful to me. And so the only thing I could eat was like oats or sweet potatoes. I mean, I was just like, my my focus was not on my waistline or any of that. My focus is on getting my brain back because it was scary not to be able to use my brain well. And even just figuring out projects, I couldn't. My brain just didn't work. And so I'm so grateful to be back. I'm feeling good. But what do you do when you're going through nausea? I mean, same thing, just do the best you can. Because I was like, oh, I wish I could eat more vegetables, but it just didn't sound good at all.
It's really important to keep in mind that the point of sane eating, the point of everything that we're doing here is to serve you and to make your life more enjoyable and to allow you to rock your mission. So if at any point in time, making sane efforts causes stress or makes you feel like you're doing something wrong or bad, that's we're eating to live, we're not living to eat. So unlike the
Mm.
neurotic calorie counting approach, which again is
Yeah.
shame based,
Yeah.
it's all encompassing. We're in here for the long haul. This is not about yo-yo dieting. This is not about going down, up, down, up, down, up. Look, things are going to happen in life. Think of it like the stock market. Everyone talks about the stock market. Don't check your stocks every day. You put stuff in the stock market, leave it alone for 40 years, and it's going to trend up. So this is the way I like to talk about my life and the way I like to talk about my sanity. And even when people ask about like, how's the business going? How's your life going? How's your sanity going? I say ups and downs trending up. And that
Okay.
should be, I think, our goal. Ups and downs trending up. Right now, the Dow dropped 75 points. That's fine. Let's
Yeah.
not let it drop 750 points with a bunch of
Yeah.
shame and negativity. Let's go up and down and just make sure we trend up.
Yes, I love that because I didn't start diving into ice cream and ding dongs and any of that kind of stuff. It was just more like what can I do? And I wasn't feeding myself. I mean, Eric was waiting on me hand and foot, bringing food. What do you want for breakfast? What do you want? And he was taking care of the whole house. And I just felt like I can only do so much. So, okay, thank you. That's really helpful. One of the things, though, I did learn was that the sane foods that I eat give me so much energy. I didn't realize that by cutting out my vegetables, because my energy had dropped a ton, and it was kind of towards the end of the 10 days, and I was feeling like, oh, I could get up and running again. But I just said, hey, Eric, I feel so sluggish. And he said, okay, April, you're going to go make a spinach smoothie, go drink a big spinach smoothie and get your sane foods and start eating that again. And I did. And it was amazing how after 10 days without a spinach smoothie, by drinking one again, I felt immediately so much better. And I guess you probably would have predicted that, right?
100%. And the other thing to keep in mind, and I'm not saying these things to be self-promotional. I'm saying them because they're factually
Promote yourself, Jonathan. I'm all for it. No problem.
I'm saying them because they're factually true. So there's instances where either someone is not hungry or they feel nauseous, or even in the case of a gastric bypass surgery where their stomach has been shrunk down to a minute size. Therapeutic doses of nutrition will help you, period. Like no matter what's going on in your life, if your body is looking to heal itself, people will say, oh, you have a cold, take this over the counter, super emergency, vitamin C supplement, because vitamin C will help you to overcome your illness. Well, to the extent that that's true, an abundance of whole food nutrition concentrated down is even more helpful, because that's nutrition presented to your body in the form factor with all the other cofactors that make it most effective. So if you're nauseous, or if you've had gastric bypass surgery, or if you just don't have an appetite, there are options around things like powdered superfoods, which will unequivocally help to heal you, because they will provide you with whole food nutrition. The only thing to watch out for is a lot of them are nonsense. A lot of them have artificial trash added to them. And that's part of the reason, again, we created things like Garden in My Glass in the SANE store, where it's just things like thin cell wall chlorella, or even if you're feeling great, you can't go to your store and buy actual thin cell wall chlorella to eat. But these are foods that are therapeutic. So no matter what's happening with your life, whether you're traveling, whether you have a certain medical condition, proper nutrition will always help you to get out of that faster. And if you can't do it via things you bought at your grocery store, there are powdered options. Just be careful, because that industry is unregulated. That's why we created the SANE store, to help you out with those things. But it's just something to keep in mind.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to learn more about what you're offering there, what they do, how they can get them, there's just instructions on how to eat them, how to...
Yeah, just pop over to SANE. I mean, again, they can
tutorials.
Find all the information on everything.
Okay.
I want to make this about that, but I do. People say like, "What? Why do you sell these things? You've sold out." No, not really. I mean, this is what I do personally, and I found that there's a lot of garbage out there, so I want to provide a good version of it. And these are just contexts in which they fit perfectly. So I know we didn't plan to talk about this, but it comes up.
I love that. Well, because the thing is, like, I'm willing to invest in my health. I just don't know what the best resources are. And I just think being educated on what I can eat and what will help me and what resources are out there, I think that's helpful for anyone. Then you can make your own decision on what you want to do or where you want to buy it. But just knowing that something's there to help you.
And I think it's really also important to focus on when and why we'd use these things, because again, sometimes people get really confused and they're like, oh, so you're saying I don't have to drink green smoothies now, I can just eat powdered vegetables all day. And no, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, if you're traveling or if you can't do the other things, these things can be a wonderful replacement in those contexts, and then a supplement in other contexts.
Okay. All right. So number 4, I can't believe all this stuff happened to me in the same month, but number 4, our refrigerator totally broke. Our refrigerator has worked fine for like 12 years, but yes, it broke on Sunday. We had a repair person come in Monday. All these problems are happening with parts. They're still not here. It's a Thursday when you and I are recording. So we have like a whole week with no fridge. And when you have 4 children and a busy life and no refrigerator, It's tricky. I mean, so this is what I did. I had a frozen turkey in our deep freezer. I put that in the freezer, which is now just like a box, and stuffed all the food in it around the turkey. So I've got that like a big ice block. We went and bought ice. I had 2 big coolers. I've got all of my, lettuce and kale and all my vegetable celery, everything packed in these coolers. But it's really hard. I mean, the amount of vegetables that I consume each day and not having my refrigerator working, like when I make spinach smoothies, I can only make what I can eat and store for that day. I can't make a lot. So what would you do if your fridge broke for a whole week?
Well, I can tell you exactly what I do because that happened to me 3 months ago. Our fridge was actually kept breaking for over 2 months. In fact, it broke when we were both out of town, and it was like 90 degrees in Seattle and no one has central air. So we came back and it smelled like the apocalypse in our house. And we had to throw away all of our food. It was all moldy and rotten and it was horrible. And then they fixed it. They didn't fix it. And finally I fixed it. Believe it or not. And I'm not a very handy person when it comes to things other than computers and nutrition. But so here's what we did in that circumstance. So the first answer is, in case of emergency, eat SANE convenience foods. That was the answer. Like, in case of emergency, break glass. In case of you traveling, in case you're sick, in case your fridge breaks, there are unrefrigerated options you can enjoy. store.sanesolution.com, period. Now, if you want to do not that, you can, what we did is we do have a deep freezer. We have since bought a backup refrigerator. And here's the trick for that. Ask your local fridge place if they have dented refrigerators that they cannot sell. Because we got a fairly, it's not a fridge we would necessarily put in our house, but it's in our garage, and it was like $350 delivered because it was scratch and dent.
Love that.
So we've got a backup freezer we got from Costco for less than $200 in the garage. Then we were able to get a scratch and dent fridge for like $350. So now we do have that backup in place, but we didn't have that backup when this happened. So what we ended up doing was we did eat, more Chipotle and more Thai food than we normally would. But then we would blend smoothies, put them in the freezer, freeze them, use them as ice packs and coolers for the other food.
Oh, okay.
But again, it wasn't perfect. Like, we weren't as sane as we would be otherwise because other stuff was happening. But we would go from blender to freezer to cooler.
Okay. All right. So I'm hopeful that this is almost over. Like, fingers crossed. We're supposed to get it fixed tomorrow. But yeah, it's just things like that happen, and you just think, oh no, all my goals. It's okay. So we're figuring it out, and I love that.
And a backup fridge is awesome. If you have the resources, it's good.
As you just said that, I'm like, I'd be happy to buy one. Our garage is super full, but I don't know. I'm going to look and see if we can figure that out, because I think I need my own fridge just for me, just for all my food for the week. I would love to just prep it in advance and have it all ready. And I think that's great. Okay. So my next question is, we traveled. So for the holidays, we went to a friend's house, and she called in advance, really sweet, and said, okay, is there anything in particular that your family won't eat or does eat, and I let her know, like, we eat mainly, I eat a lot of vegetables. We like healthy food, but no allergies or anything. So she was an amazing hostess and had everything ready for us. Now, I packed a cooler and brought a lot of my own vegetables because I didn't want to say, hi, I eat a whole lot of vegetables. Can you buy like big bags of spinach? I just felt I didn't want her to have to go through a lot of extra effort. So I just brought a lot of my own stuff, and I thought, well, I'm sure they'll have a grocery store nearby and I can just go pick up some stuff. Well, it turns out they live like in this beautiful area in the woods, totally far away from any grocery store. And we had so many activities planned together that there was never a time I could just say, hey, I'll just head to the grocery store for a minute. It just wasn't possible. So my question is, when you're going to visit somebody, how much do you say at the beginning about what your needs are, or how would you kind of gauge that? Because I just don't want to be like that weird guest nobody wants to invite over because they have to buy like tons of vegetables to feed me. But I also want to be able to eat healthfully because, I feel best when I eat a lot of healthy foods. So what would you do there?
I'd take a two-tiered approach. The first is, you do want to educate them as kindly and politely as you can, but understand that they're probably going to do from an A to an F, they'll probably do a C or a B. So they're not going to do an A, and that's okay. And then the second part of my answer will address how to go from a C or a B to an A, and you can do that on your own. Whereas I eat a whole lot of vegetables. I'm pre-diabetic, which is true. You're either diabetic or pre-diabetic. There is no third state by definition.
Okay.
You're either diabetic or you're not diabetic yet. So we're all diabetic or pre-diabetic. So if you say I'm pre-diabetic, and then they'll say, oh my goodness, okay, what does that mean? Well, then you can say, because if you give a medical reason, it makes it a lot easier, and it's true. So I focus on eating a lot of vegetables. I really enjoy things like meat and fish and eggs, things like that. And then I really like nuts and seeds. Those work really well for me. Starches and sweets, those aggravate my prediabetes. So I try to stay away from those as much as I can.
Okay.
And if you can, then you can sometimes say, hey, and I'm happy to pop over to the grocery store. Like if you're staying with someone, for example, when I visit my parents, they just know we're going to go grocery shopping when I get there.
Okay.
Because I'm there for more than 1 or 2 days. Then the second part of the answer is you're just going to need to supplement what they provide. So think about it like it's the same as the conference scenario, where you need to bring your backup non-refrigerated veggies or powdered veggies. You need to bring your backup SANE protein bars and maybe some backup whole food fats like nuts and seeds.
And then do you like get that out and eat it while you're around the table with your friends? Okay. It's just kind of like
it's like I'll pre-eat. Like, oh, it's dinner. Oh, we're going to eat dinner in 15 minutes. Okay, I'm going to go make my garden my glass, shake it up in my bottle, eat a protein bar so that I can. Also, I eat a lot. I eat a whole lot because I'm a naturally thin person. I exercise eccentrically. So I also just, even if people buy SANE foods, I eat an impolite amount of it. So I don't feel comfortable getting up for thirds.
An impolite amount of food. That's really funny. Okay. All right. No, I think that's great. And I think that it's been really a good month for me. I feel like it's helping me figure out, I mean, I'm sure there could be other things that could come my way to make it hard, but I feel like I really hit a lot of them. And I feel excited moving forward. And also, though, our conversation that we've had in the past podcast, conversations we've had, I feel a lot less stressed about it. Like I've noticed that I'm not as hard on myself. I'm actually enjoying my life more. I feel like my body image issues are pretty much gone, which is really awesome. And I feel like I'm focusing more on being that instrument than being an object. And just that mindset shift has really been helpful to me. And, laying in bed for all those 10 days when I couldn't do anything but sit there, you start realizing what really matters to you. What do I really miss about my life? And I came out of that and got rid of a bunch of stuff and essentialized a bunch of stuff. And I feel like it really helps me bring clarity. And really, I realized I care way more about having a healthy, strong body than looking a certain way. Like laying in bed for 10 days really helped me realize that if I have energy to stand up and move and work and do things, 100%, that's the main thing I want. So anyway, thanks for all your investment in helping me over the past several podcasts. It's been really life-changing for me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, April. And I think it's really important also for us to keep in mind, because I know there are these things called a shame spiral where things go poorly and then it's like, oh, I'm doing bad. And then it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. And just one quick bit of science, because I think you captured the spiritual and psychological aspects so well. And what you just said is that keep in mind that your body is incredibly resilient and adaptive. So most of us were struggling with diabetes, or we're struggling with obesity, or we're struggling with metabolic syndrome because of chronic exposure, aka years, decades of exposure to toxic inputs. So your body, right, you can go a week without food. I'm not suggesting this, but your body is it's an adaptive thing. So just please keep in mind that nobody develops diabetes overnight. You can't gain 10 pounds in a day. These are things that happen over time. So as long as we're trending up, we have a good reason to smile. So that's excellent. And hopefully next month will be a better month for you.
Yes. Well, and I think that's a great next action is focus on the trending up. I think that's a beautiful way to put it, because all of us can trend up, right? No matter if you have an awful day and your fridge breaks or you're injured or whatever, you're traveling. I mean, there's so many things that could make it hard. But if you're just thinking about it and you're prioritizing your health and you're applying the things that you're learning about nutrition and the things that we've been talking about on this podcast, like, I think that's a great thing. That's a recipe for a great life. So thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. We're so thrilled to be able to have been part of this with you. Thank you, Jonathan, for all you've done to help me. We have so much great information here at SANE and SANEsolution.com and the SANE store. I'm going to go do another look over there and figure out what I need to make next time so much easier. So thanks so much. Have a great day. And remember to stay sane.